Hi, welcome back everyone to Writing with Miss Anjos and Khaleesi. I hope everyone had a great weekend and are ready to jump right back into learning. Today is Monday, March 23rd, 2020, day 4 of distance learning. Now, before we get into the lesson, I want to make sure you are extra prepared. So if you have not watched Mr. Skyer's Read Aloud lesson yet, you need to pause this video, go back, watch his lesson, do the exit ticket, and then come back and join me for writing. Now, if you have done Mr. Skyer's Read Aloud lesson, you're going to continue this lesson with me on writing today. All right. We need to make sure we have all our materials. So you want to make sure you have a sharpened pencil with an eraser. And you want to make sure you have your writing packet. You're turning to the 4th page because we're doing the 4th prompt. Now, for those of you following digitally at home, I'm going to show you how to access your materials right now. All right, so for those of you following along digitally at home, you should be at this folder right here, Distance Learning Materials. You're going to go to first grade, because still us. You're going to click on the writing folder. And today you're going to go to Read Aloud Literary Essay Prompts because we are writing about the Read Aloud that Mr. Skyer did today. Then you're going to go to today's date, which is 3/23, March 23rd, My Buddy Slug. And your prompt should look exactly like this. Today we're going to be talking about Slug, who is a supporting character in the book My Buddy Slug. Now, once you've pulled up your writing, I want to bring your attention back to the Distance Learning Materials folder. 1 second while it loads. And for this, you're going to need your Read Aloud folder so you can access the book so we can find evidence. Because we always back up our opinions with evidence. We have to convince those readers why we feel the way we do. Now, you're going to go to first grade. You're going to go to Read Aloud. And then you are going to click on today's date, Monday, 3/23, Monday, March 23rd. And here is the first part of the book. And then here is the second part of the book. Okay, now before we get into the actual book, go ahead and make sure you have all of your materials. Take a few seconds to do that, and then we're going to get started with our brainstorm and our plan. All right, take a second to do that. All right, everyone, let's look at the prompt and see what it's asking us. How would you describe the character Slug in My Buddy Slug by Jarrett Krasowska? I think that's how you pronounce his name. All right, let's brainstorm. Let's get right to it. How could we describe Slug? We're going to think of lots of different ways we could describe Slug, and today we, meaning you and I, are going to choose just one. All right. Think about it. What did Slug go through in the book? What were some things he said? What were some things he did that make him who he is? We know he's a supporting character, and we know that the main character is the boy. So what things do they go through together that help us reveal who Slug is? Take a moment and think about that right now. I'm going to take a moment and think for myself too. All right. Feel free to call them out at your house, whisper them to yourselves, or tell the person next to you. All right. So when I think of Slug, I think he's enthusiastic. He's loving. Oh, I know one that you guys all might agree with me on. I know that he is talkative, and if I'm thinking about the character's events, thinking of how the ending of the book went, I know that Slug is forgiving. It's a big word. Now, these are all different words that describe Slug. Some of them are similar to each other, and some of them are a little different. Now, I want you to choose one of these four today, or one of your own if you thought of one at your house. And we are going to write our prompt based on that. So go ahead and take the time to choose one of those words now. As you choose your words, I want you to think about how you're going to back it up with examples from the book. That means with evidence either from the illustrations or from the text itself. Go ahead and think about which one you have the most evidence for and could convince your reader of as you write your prompt today. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to do that. All right, and we are back. So I am going to choose loving. That is the word that I am choosing. You are choosing one of your own. All right. Now that we have done our brainstorm, we are going to move into writing our plan. As you can see, Ms. Andrews has chosen a box and bullet to write with today. Okay, now the first things first, I have to write my topic sentence. When I write my topic sentence, I use the question to help me out. So I'm going to read it again. You could read with me at home. How would you describe the character Slug in My Buddy Slug by Jarrett Krasowska? Okay, so when we've been starting our topic sentences on books, we always start with labeling the book. So I'm going to do that, and you're going to take out your planning page and do the same thing. You can either do it on a box and bullet, you can do it on a web, or you could do it on that page that has the handwriting without tears line. You're only doing one planning page, and I want you to choose which one is best for you. Go ahead and do that now. All right, ready? Here we go. So as I'm writing my topic sentence, you're writing down yours. In the text, My Buddy Slug by Jarrett Krasowska. What a fun name, right, everyone? Slug is a character that is loving. All right. Now I have to think of 3 examples that back up how Slug is loving. And we're going to find some evidence, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to back up mine, and you're going to do that for yours at home. All right. Now, I am back on sharing my screen because I want to show you how we're looking for evidence. Now, earlier today, you read this with Mr. Skyer, so we're not going to reread the whole text, but we're going to look for evidence that back up our examples. Now, I described Slug as a loving character, so I'm going to go through my pages and see what could prove that he is in fact a loving character. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is this page right here. Now notice that big giant smile on his face. He's just so excited to be around him, he just can't even help it. So he says, "Hey, Alex, I was in the neighborhood, so I figured I'd stop by. Then your mom invited me to stay for dinner. Crazy timing, huh?" That's my first example of how he's loving because he's just so excited right now. He just can't hide it. And he's so glad to be with Alex and his family. Now, this was found on page 9. So I'm going to write that in my web right now. As I write my reason 1, I want you to look back through the text either digitally on your side or thinking back to when Mr. Scott read to you about an example. So I'm going to write my reason 1. He says, "Hey, Alex, I was in the neighborhood." I'm not going to write the whole thing because remember, a box and bullet has to be nice, sweet, and simple. In the neighborhood, so I'm going to put dot, dot, dot. Then your mom invited me for dinner. Okay? It's not a complete sentence. It's just my first example of evidence that's going to back up my topic sentence. Go ahead and finish your reason 1 now. All right. So we're going to move to reason 2. Now remember, I have to think of evidence that prove that Slug is a loving character. I'm proving that he's loving. So as I scroll through my book, as you can see, I'm reminding myself of what happened. And I'm looking at the illustration, seeing if there's any evidence I can use. Oh, I think I found it. Now notice my second piece of evidence. I look at the illustration. There is another big smile on Slug's face again. Now this has been the point that I use the most because when you love someone, you just can't help but smile at them so much. So that leads me to this next piece of evidence. Now I'm going to write my reason 2, which is my evidence, okay? Now you're going to write yours. He says, "Alex, hey, Alex, let's tell scary stories. I'll start." Now, he's just so excited to spend time and share his experiences with someone. I know that you guys have felt the same way sometimes. Now, remember, as I write mine, you write yours. It says, "Alex, hey, Alex, let's tell scary stories." I'll start. It's like when someone's like, "Oh, let's play a game. Me too, me too." Like that type of excitement. All right. Go ahead and finish up your reason 2. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our third piece of evidence that proves just how loving a character Slug is. And you're looking for evidence that proves whatever word you chose for Slug. Oh, I got my evidence, one event from the beginning, one event from the middle. Now I'm thinking I might find my last piece of evidence. Where, everyone? At the end. Now, it might not always follow that order, but in this case, it did. So I didn't find it there, so now I go to part 2 of my book. Actually, if you're accessing this from home, I'm just going to show you. You're going to click on part 2. I'm refreshing myself on what happened. I'm looking at those illustrations. And, oh, this is some good stuff, right, everyone? This was a great book. Find my last piece of evidence. Oh, there's that great big smile again. And remember, that was my clue in the first two examples. So I see this big smile, so I know there must be a clue that he's feeling pretty loving. And here is my last piece of evidence that I'm going to use. He says, good, because I've missed you so much. And I guess I was just afraid that you would like move away too, like Kevin did or something, but I'm glad we're friends again. I've been dying to tell you about this new. Okay? Now, you wouldn't say that to someone that you don't love. You wouldn't be that excited if you didn't love someone. So I'm going to write that down. As I write my reason 3, I want you to write yours. I'm going to say, says, good, because I've missed you so much. So much. And I guess I was just afraid. Okay. Now, take the time to finish your reason 3 and make sure that all your reasons are in your plan because we are about to use this for our writing. Go ahead and make sure you've done that now. All right, I'm really excited, everyone, because now we're going to move into the actual writing. Now, to move into the actual writing, you're going to want to turn to the page with all the lines and the sentence frame that starts in the text, My Buddy Slug by Jared Krasoska. Slug is a character that is that one I showed you in the very beginning of the video. Go ahead and turn to that page now. Make sure you ripped off your plan and have it right beside you. All right. Now, when I start my writing, I make sure that the first thing I'm going to write is my topic sentence. I'm going to take that right from my plan. As I'm writing mine, you are writing yours. So here I go. In the text, My Buddy Slug by Jared Krasoska. Slug is a character that is, you're going to write yours and I'm writing mine. That is loving. All right. I'm going to write my reasons in different colors. Okay, so I start with my first one. Now, I'm going to move this over so you can actually see me. All right, now when I write my reasons, I want to make sure that I'm stretching them out in a way that makes sense to my reader and why that evidence proves that slug is whatever word you chose. So, my first piece of evidence says, hey Alex, I was in the neighborhood, then your mom invited me for dinner. What does that show us in the sense of him being loving? Think of someone that says, hey, they invited me over. It tells me that they love to spend time. So my first reason, I'm not going to write my evidence. I'm going to stretch out and explain Slug loves spending time with his friends. shows he's loving. When you love your friends, you love spending time with them. So, to explain my evidence, the same way we've been doing, I'm going to say one example is, now as I write my evidence, I want you to do the same with yours. One example is, he says, "Hey Alex, I was in the neighborhood then your mom invited me for dinner." For dinner. So I have my reason, how he's loving, which is that he spends time, and I have my evidence. No difficulties, everyone. One moment. All right. Now I'm going to think of my reason too. Go ahead and take this extra few seconds to finish your reason one. Okay. Now, looking back, I'm going to hold it nice and straight so you can see it. Looking at my reason two, it says, "Alex, hey, psst, let's tell scary stories. I'll start." So remember, because we have to stretch it out, I'm not just going to say my evidence. I'm going to give the reason and use that to back it up. So, also, Slug enjoys sharing his excitement. Now that proves that he's loving, because when you think about when you get good news or when you do something fun, the first people you want to share it with usually are people you love. Sorry guys. So I'm going to back that up with my evidence now and say an example of this I'm going to hold this up, is when he says, now as I'm writing my evidence, you're writing yours, is when he says, "Hey Alex, Alex, let's share scary stories. I'll start." Okay, go ahead and finish your reason too. All set? All right. We're going to move on to our 3s and 3. And you guessed it, we're going to look back at our plan and look at our evidence and think of a reason that would describe how Slug is loving. So I says, "Good, because I missed you so much and I guess I was just afraid." So that shows us that Slug is not afraid to say how he feels, which when you love someone is what you do. So I'm going going to say, finally, Slug is not afraid to share how he really feels. A final example, because you know this is my last example, is, now as I write this, I want to make sure you're finishing up your reason and your evidence. A final example is when he tells Alex good, because I've missed you. I've missed you so much. I was just afraid now, thinking back to what happened in the book, this just proves that he just loves Alex so much, right? He didn't want to annoy or didn't mean to annoy him. He just wanted to share that love. Go ahead and finish up your reason 3. All right, now we can officially move our plan out of the way. Miss Anderson was falling. And we are going to finish up here. Okay, so now I'm going to say all of these reasons, and as I write mine, I want you to write yours. You could write one similar to mine, or you could think of one that's different. You could say all of these reasons show, or you could say these are the ways that show. So I'm going to stick with all of these reasons show what a loving character Slug is. Go ahead and finish up that conclusion. Okay. Now we're not fully done until we make sure we have edited and proofread all our work. So I want to make sure that at the beginning of every sentence and proper noun that things are capitalized. Okay, not going to go through all of them, but you know what I mean. I'm going to make sure at the end of every sentence I have punctuation. I'm going to make sure my heart words are spelled correctly. I'm going to make sure that there are finger spaces. And I'm going to make sure that my writing makes sense. Does it answer the question? In the text, My Buddy Slug by Jarrett Krasoska, Slug is a character that is loving. Tells us exactly what. I explained each of my reasons. I gave evidence. All right. Now I'm super proud of all of you because this was really hard work. So I want you to give a big kiss on your brain. And I want you to share that writing with someone you love around you. And feel free to email it to one of the first grade teachers, and we'll be sure to include it in our next video. You could leave a comment below this video as well. Now, if you finished all your writing, I want you to go back and you can also decorate your title page, which is that huge box on the front of your prompt. All right, folks, that's it for today. I will see you tomorrow, Tuesday, for day 5, where we'll be describing a different character from a read aloud book. All right, bye everyone.